Welcome to Onpery graphic novel. In this video we will learn about menstruation. Please play the video in the highest viewing quality. Before we start, do you know how to avoid blood spotting accidents around Menarche, premenstrual and menstrual days? Let us understand through a small awareness film. That was insightful, right? Now let us jump to the topic of the novel.
PT teacher Seema is making an announcement in the classroom.
Children, there is something important that the nurse Rosie at the school infirmary wants to discuss with you all today. So, please line up to head towards the AV, audiovisual, room. Please be attentive in the session and ask as many questions you may have around the topic.
What could it be?
I hope it to be some superhero movie.
The children settle in front of a projector screen. The nurse Rosie takes over.
Hello children. How are you all doing today?
Good.
How are you, Nurse Rosie?
What are you showing us today?
I am very well, and I hope you all are doing well too. Before I begin, I want you all to settle down and be patient. Today's AV, audiovisual, is very important and it requires you to be attentive. I am sure it will have you all intrigued. It is something to do with the human body.
Whoa! This should be fun.
We love biology. Tell us more.
That is great. So, tell me how many of you are aware about puberty and reproductive system? Oh, there is nothing to feel coy about these topics, as it is a part of your development. And this AV, audiovisual, here is to make you aware of the signs of it. Let's get started, shall we?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, tell me, how many of you know what this is?
We know.
Is it the female reproductive system?
Absolutely right. This video will further break this down for you, so you can understand the beautiful functioning of this system, and how its processes are crucial for the continuation of the human species.
Children are curious and excited. The video by Onpery is being played, in which a doctor is explaining the topics.
There are eggs inside the ovaries. Eggs are the female reproductive cell.
Inner reproduction system of menstruators. Marked are fallopian tube, eggs ova, ovary. Marked are uterus, cervix, vagina. Here we see maturation process of an egg in the ovary. Menstruators have two ovaries on each side of the body, which is connected to the uterus through fallopian tube, also known as oviduct. Each of the ovaries has thousands of ovarian follicles. Ovarian follicles are small sacs in the ovaries that hold mature eggs.
Eggs. Do you mean like chicken eggs? I didn't know humans have that.
Not really like chicken eggs. Our ovaries contain more than 1 million of very tiny egg cells that are not really visible to the naked eye. Menstruator, typically a female or even a trans man, has to go through menstruation, every 28 days approximately after puberty till 40-50 years of age. Menstruation is the regular discharge of blood and mucosal tissue from the inside of the uterus, through the cervix, and out of the body through your vagina. In menstruation, one mature egg is released from either of the ovaries almost every month. Each such cycle is called the menstrual cycle, and this phase of release of an egg is called ovulation. As the body grows, the number of eggs continues to decrease. By the time a female enters puberty, only about 25 to 30% of the total eggs remain.
But why does our ovary waste these eggs every month?
Oria, it is our body's natural process. Once you hit puberty, your body is getting ready toward being an adult and for pregnancy. Let us further understand from the video.
Let's understand male genitals. This is penis. Urethra, from where urine comes out, is surrounded by only muscles and no bones, and altogether form an organ known as penis, which is hanging outside the body. Urethral opening. It is an external opening of the urethra, which is the tube that carries urine out of the body, from the bladder. Scrotum. It is a male reproductive structure located under the penis, in the shape of a hanging sac, and divides into two compartments, which holds two oval-shaped organs called the testicles. Sperm. It is a male reproductive cell, credited in each testicle, can be released from urethral opening. Inside the fallopian tube, this egg, which is a female reproductive cell, may fertilize if it comes in contact with the male reproductive cell, sperm. If the egg gets fertilized and implants itself in the uterus, the process of the formation of a baby begins. Here we can see fertilization taking place, and further cells getting regenerated. Uterus. It is a hollow, pear-shaped organ. Every menstrual cycle, it forms a lining of blood and mucosal tissue on its wall to prepare the uterus for possibility of pregnancy. When a person is pregnant, the uterus is where fetus develops and grows. Uterus is also known as womb. Cervix. It is a very narrow opening of the uterus that connects uterus and vagina. So one end of the vagina is vaginal opening at the outer body and another end is the cervix. Fetus during the weeks of pregnancy. Embryo is the earliest stage of life. It doesn't have any recognizable features. Fetus is the embryo at 2 months of age. It has recognizable developing features.
Chromosomes, a microthread-like structure, is a part of the cell that decides the sex, character, shape, etc. that the living being will have. The sperm may be either the X chromosome or the Y chromosome. Each egg produced by a biological female is of X chromosome, which when comes in contact with any one of the biological male chromosomes, gets fertilized to form a baby. Biologically male individuals have one X and one Y chromosome, XY, while those who are biologically female have two X chromosomes, XX.
Oh. So if the egg fertilizes, places itself in the uterus, one gets pregnant, right?
Yes, that's right. And in anticipation of egg fertilization, for it to get the required nourishment, our uterus begins to form a protective lining every month.
But what happens when the egg does not combine with the sperm?
That's a good question, Toshi. Now, if the egg does not fertilize, then the uterus lining of blood and mucosal tissue is not required. The protective lining along with the unfertilized egg is shed out through the vagina. This entire process is known as menstruation, commonly known as periods. But when the menstruator is pregnant, the baby comes out of the vagina only, which is made of highly stretchable walls, in case of normal delivery, generally after 9 months of being pregnant.
So, how often does menstruation happen to us?
Menstruation roughly happens once every month. Generally, each cycle is of 28 days, but certainly varies from person to person. In this cycle, the menstruation, which is the bleeding phase, generally lasts about 3 to 5 days, but it may vary from 2 days to 10 days also for some people. The first couple of days of menstruation, one may have more bleeding and will gradually get lower by the end of menstruating days.
And how much blood do we lose? I'm scared. Does it cause weakness?
There's nothing to worry about, Toshi. Even though everybody is different, the amount of blood loss can range from slight spotting to 80 milliliters, and the average being 30 milliliters, which is about 6 teaspoons. It is very minimal, which certainly doesn't lead to any weakness. If there is a blood loss of more than 80 milliliters, then it is considered unusual heavy menstrual bleeding. But one should not panic in this situation. It is best to consult an adult or a gynecologist if one thinks they are bleeding more than normal or facing any discomfort related to menstruation, puberty, or adolescence.
But why do boys need to know about this? Isn't this a female's problem?
It is not a problem, Aman. Fertilization of the egg and menstruation are very important processes that occur in a menstruator's body. These processes are crucial to reproduction. Also, it is not only female who menstruate, even trans men, a person who identifies as a male but is biologically a female at birth through their genitalia, menstruates. Moreover, all non-menstruators including males should be more aware of these physical changes in a menstruator's body so that they can empathize with them and treat them respectfully.
Yes, boys should definitely understand that girls are nothing less than superheroes.
Okay, now that I am done taking you through the basics of ovulation and the menstrual cycle, I am sure you all have more questions in your curious little minds. Please ask.
Nurse Rosie, does every person who menstruates experience severe pain? I have seen my sister in pain.
Good question, Riya. As I said before, each person's body is different. The menstrual cramps are caused due to shedding of the uterus lining, the contraction of the uterine wall, and the release of the unfertilized egg. But the intensity of the pain differs for different menstruators.
Nurse, if one feels menstrual cramps, then what should one do?
One can take following measures for menstrual cramps. Using a hot water bag or soaking in a warm bath are great ways to ease period pain, but you can also use heating patches if you are looking for a discreet on-the-go way to get relief. For period pain, NSAID, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, are likely to work best since they can reduce prostaglandins. Prostaglandins are the hormones that stimulate the contractions leading to menstrual cramps. Other ways to reduce period pain is to be consistent with meditation, yoga, and exercise. Getting your vitamins and minerals daily is yet another way to relieve period pain.
Thank you, nurse. I will remember these. Nurse, I have a question. You mentioned that menstruation happens for a few days in each cycle. So, what happens in the other non-menstrual days? Also, in which part of the cycle does menstruation happen, in the starting or toward end?
I'll explain this through a video.
There are 4 phases in a menstrual cycle. Phase 1, menstruation phase. It usually is for day 1 to day 5 of the cycle. In this phase, the uterus lining breaks down. Menstruation happens. Phase 2, follicular phase. It usually is for day 6 to day 10 of the cycle. After menstruation, the uterus lining starts to thicken and a soft tissue called endometrium begins to develop in the uterus in preparation to receive the egg. Phase 3, ovulation phase. It usually is for day 11 to day 18 of the cycle. The mature egg is released in the fallopian tube. Here, if the mature egg meets a sperm, it fertilizes. If there is no fertilization, the egg slowly disintegrates. Phase 4, luteal phase. It usually is for day 19 to day 28 of the cycle. The lining of the uterus continues to thicken. If fertilization does not take place, the lining begins to shed leading to phase 1 of the cycle. If pregnancy happens, then there will be no menstruation during those months of pregnancy.
I have an important question, nurse. Can someone get pregnant while they are menstruating?
Yes, although it's unlikely, a menstruator can get pregnant at any time during their menstrual cycle, just that the chances of one getting pregnant varies in each of the phases of the cycle, peak being the ovulation phase. But I want you all to remember that even though you may get your menstruation soon, or maybe some of you have already had your first menstruation, it does not mean that your body is ready for pregnancy. Your body needs to grow to being an adult and be healthy to withhold a child. One must think about parenthood only when one is an adult, as in physically and mentally ready to accept this phase of their life, which is ideally after one turns at least 18 years old.
You said that the menstruation dates can fluctuate and there are no fixed dates, so how do girls know when they will get their next menstruation?
The best way to ensure one is prepared for their next cycle is to track their dates. But other than that, the body is very smart, as it will also show some signs before one gets their menstruation. These signs and symptoms can differ from person to person. Some of these include bloating, acne, exhaustion, fatigue, cramps, sore breasts. It is also known as tender breasts, which usually happen because of various changes that your body experiences during menstruation. But don't worry, this should settle within 1 to 2 days. If not, one must consult a medical expert.
Nurse, how will I know that when I may get my first menstruation?
Occurrence of first menstruation is known as menarche. It may happen in between the age of 8 to 15, but there are a few understandings one can refer to. The daughter may get her first menstruation around the same age when her mother would have had her first menstruation. The first menstruation may happen in about 2 to 3 years after the early development of breast in shape and size. There is something called vaginal discharge, a mix of fluid and cells from the vagina, coming out through vaginal opening. It varies from whitish and sticky to clear and watery, possibly associated with an odor. If you observe such a discharge, then in the next 6 months you may have your first menstruation.
Nurse, when someone is menstruating, then all their clothes might get blood stains, right?
No, Aman. Nurse Rosie, I guess I know the answer. I have seen my mother bring home something last month, which when I asked her what it was, then she replied saying they are sanitary napkins. She told they are used during menstruation by placing it on the underwear and it absorbs all the blood. So, we may use sanitary napkins when we menstruate, right?
Yes, Toshi. Sanitary napkins are one of the many menstrual product options available today. However, absorbent underwear is a great alternative. The products are similar to any regular underwear but with an absorbent layer. Thin, yet super absorbent. Breathable. Long wear time. Leak-proof. Also, it is a sustainable product, as can be reused for up to 100 cycles. For all those who are going to menstruate for the first time, it is best to use something they are comfortable with, without much change in the usage behavior. Absorbent underwears are super convenient considering one may not be sure of when the first menstruation may happen, or even after that, one may take time to get used to the cycle. So, it is advisable for the girl to wear absorbent underwear whenever outdoors. Absorbent underwears are also very ideal for all premenstrual days. When a menstruator stops menstruating, usually around the age of 40 to 50, it is called menopause. The phase, lasting for around 4 years before menopause, is called perimenopause. A menstruator goes through irregular menstruation in perimenopause, and hence absorbent underwear can be very helpful and convenient in outdoors in such cases.
Wow! Absorbent underwear seems so great. We will tell others about the same.
Yes. More on these topics in our next session. Our time for today is almost over. Thank you so much, children, for listening keenly and asking such great questions. We can definitely take up more questions the next time. See you.
Children head home. At home, Toshi is looking at the clock and waiting for her mother to come home from work.
Hi, mother. How was your day? Let me take your bags.
Oh, thank you, Toshi. You are a sweetheart. My day was great. What about you? Did you have fun at school?
Oh, about that, mother, can I ask you something?
Of course, dear. Ask away.
So, today at school, we learnt about the female reproductive system and menstruation in an awareness session. I am very interested to know more.
That is a great initiative by the school. So what do you want to know?
Mother, remember how last month Priya, elder sister of Riya, was very irritable and was complaining about cramps? Did she have her menstruation going?
Yes, Toshi, you are right. She had her menstruation. She was irritable because sometimes when you get your periods you may experience mood swings. You may feel dull, irritated, angry when you have menstruation because of the hormonal changes in your body. When such mood swings occur before your menstruation, more often, it is called pre-menstrual syndrome, PMS.
Ah, now I get it.
Also, there is something called PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, which almost 10% of the menstruators face. It is also known as PCOD, polycystic ovary disease. A disease usually has a defining cause, distinguishing symptoms and treatments. A syndrome, on the other hand, is a group of symptoms that might not always have a definite cause. One may face irregular menstruation if they have PCOS. In this medical condition, the ovaries start releasing immature eggs. Symptoms include menstrual irregularity, excess hair growth, acne and obesity. If one may show symptoms of PCOS, they should check with a doctor to take a medical prescription and advice.
Thank you, mother. This was helpful. Also, how do you track your menstruation date? Nurse Rosie mentioned tracking menstruation is important to be prepared. How will I ever plan my days if I am not sure when my next period will be?
Oh Toshi, don't worry. I'll show you how. Bring me that calendar, placed on the study table in my room, will you?
Toshi runs and brings back the calendar.
It's simple. Let's say your menstruation starts on the 5th of May. This becomes your menstruation date, that is the first day of the menstrual cycle. And let's say your next menstruation starts on the 2nd of June, which means your previous menstrual cycle ended on the 1st of June. Now, the total number of days in your menstrual cycle will be considered from the first day of menstruation, the 5th of May in this example, till the day before your next menstruation, the 1st of June in this example. So, the total number of days in this menstrual cycle here is 28 days. Further, to know your next menstrual date, it will be the day after the total number of days in your previous menstrual cycle, from the last menstrual day, that will be the 30th of June in this example. In other words, your next menstrual date equals to 1 plus total number of days in the last menstrual cycle, from the last menstrual date.
Yes. Oh my God. What a relief.
Remember, sometimes your menstruation might be early or late by a couple of days, mainly due to hormonal changes. Also, the number of days of menstrual cycle varies among menstruators, but usually is around 28 days.
Thanks, mother. I was so stressed about calculating and tracking my cycle whenever I will reach Menarche. You are the best. Get more content at onpery.com. Share. Subscribe. Follow us on social media. Onpery offers India's first detachable and size-adjustable variant of absorbent period underwear. It is easier to replace due to detachable hooks. Also, it is easier to adjust the size due to multi-level hooks. Other features are long wear time, rash-free, reusable, leak-proof, high absorbency, yet thin and breathable. Product available on onpery.com.